My name is Paul Orscheln. I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment and Student Services at Park University, which is just north of the Kansas City metro area, in the Kansas City metro area. I'm in my, I think, 27th year in the enrollment management space across 7 different institutions and serving both public and private colleges and universities. So very excited to be here and be part of this conversation.
Amazing. And Brian.
Well, hi everyone, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're doing well wherever you may be. I'm Brian Jue. I am the Interim Executive Director for Undergraduate Admissions at UC Irvine. This is my 25th year as a staff member there in admissions and enrollment and with the campus as well, and happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. Well, before we get to discussion, I have a couple slides to share. I kind of want to level set a little bit about some of the research that's coming out and really why this conversation is so important in this present moment. So let me share my screen for one moment. There we go. All right, so just to kick things off and give some shape to this today. So we are really talking about how is AI shaping the student journey? And so, of course, if you're in the high school classroom or a counseling center on through reading applications or developing marketing for the students that ultimately be coming to campus, we know this is changing by the second, by the minute. And so really just unpacking a little bit more about that. Within the time we have, and also, of course, you can see our lovely faces again. We'll make sure this is a part of the recording and we'll send this out afterwards, just so you have a little reference of who we are. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the numbers that are coming out there. Really, I'm going to pepper Brian and Paul with a ton of questions about what they're seeing on their campuses. I'm going to talk a little bit about Kollegio and the work that we're doing, and also leave plenty of time for audience Q&A. So I'm excited for everyone to start firing things up. Please ask away. Excited to engage. So I'll also just say before I go to some of the numbers that are coming out today, that the seat we're coming to the conversation from as Kollegio is that we are a student-facing AI platform where students join to brainstorm essay ideas. They look for college and major options. They can search for scholarships and which schools might have the kind of financial aid they need, all using AI. We were built upon the idea that our founders were working as private college counselors, working one-on-one with students. And of course, as AI has accelerated over the last year or two, especially, really saw this moment as a way to say, how do we really create this opportunity for more students to be able to ask these questions? So we are seeing up to 300,000 students on the platform, with 20 to 30,000 joining each month. And so we're kind of sitting on the front lines as a company watching students ask these questions in our platform. And so that's just kind of the seat of where I come to the conversation, just so you have that context. So hopefully many of you have read earlier this year, EAB put out a college search insights study where they did a survey of over 5,000 high school students. And really one of the things that we saw evolving over this past year is that and you can probably feel it in your offices, right? 46% of students are using AI in their college search process already. So they are going to one of the many tools available to them and saying, okay, I'm thinking about this major, or here's kind of the feel I'm thinking, or give me some answers within this geographic area. They're using it to describe fit. And so this is really changing, of course, the way your enrollment and marketing teams are then able to respond to students. But what's also really intriguing is, right, this is the measuring students are doing before they ever say hello to you in any shape or form, right? 34% of students are saying their interest in an institution has grown because of AI research. And then also on the flip of that, 8% are saying that they have actually taken a college off their list because of something AI told them. Right? So whether you can sort of see it or not, these conversations are happening, at 11 at night. They're kind of just doing a quick search on their phone. And so really tapping into that understanding and be able to react thoughtfully in that moment is certainly something I think that comes up on almost every call that I'm on. How do we become a part of this conversation? They're not just this browsing, they're actually asking AI for these answers. So this is also increasingly going up. So those numbers are really from that 46% was in spring 26. I deeply suspect that we are already out of date on those numbers, and they have gone up quite a bit since. But that's only from last fall, or I'm sorry, last spring, that the students, only 26% were saying that they were using AI previously. So this is absolutely more and more present and growing all of the time. I think one of the things within that too is this question of how are students asking, right? What are they saying? What are they putting out there? And so much so, right? It has changed like the actual the query, the question is so much more organic, right? If you read and look at this, right, they're using natural language. And they're putting a few things together, right? What's the best Christian college in the Midwest is strong nursing and a good scholarship, right? Tell me what's going on, AI. Tell me, chat. Who should I be talking to? Who should I be looking at? Um, who has a strong merit aid for the GPA I have. One of our favorites is really around that look and feel. Like, what if I'm really outdoorsy? Is it, what schools have locations that are near beautiful geography or have majors that are going to support my love of being out in the forest or birding or all of these things that don't fit in that, when I took the SATs, I hit this checkbox anymore. So as they're asking these questions and they're doing this research, this is fundamentally changing the way our websites look. It's changing the types of reactions and outreach they get from university campuses. And just from as a sort of a little snapshot of what we're seeing within our own student set that's using the Kollegio platform. A nice way to think about it is in these sort of like three groupings, maybe fit and identity, which is right that collaboration. Where is that feel I'm looking for? Maybe it's I want something really big or really small, or I want to ensure there's going to be students like me and that are interested and excited in the things that I like and am excited about. And then also that cost and reality piece. So, what colleges would be affordable for me? What are my real options, as well as the all important careers, outcomes, ROI. So, is it co-op? What's the job placement rate? Give me some specific stats on those programs. So, these aren't right. These aren't our keyword searches of the past. These are actual conversations that it is possible to tap into, and sort of the moment is now. So that's a lot of words from me for maybe this second. And so I want to make sure that I can start by asking a few things of Brian and Paul, both who've been really deeply involved in tracking the AI space and certainly have a lot of perspective from their own campuses. So let me key up one of my first, which is Paul, maybe I'll start with you. Right. So we see the EAB research and that 46% of students are already using AI. We think that's going up. They're using ChatGPT, Gemini, TikTok summaries. Does that number align with what you're already seeing? And right, or is it more, or is it less? Is that already changing how you're thinking about the college search process?
Oh, I would agree with you in that it's got to be higher
Right?
at this time.
Yeah.
And part of me, I just had my youngest son just finish his freshman year in college, and so I saw him utilizing tools to search for colleges and things like that. And he's not usually one to engage in stuff like that, but with the AI technology and the tools available, it's just so accessible and so almost too easy
Wow.
to find out
Yeah.
what you need to find out. So yeah, I think this is becoming the primary way students are searching for colleges, which
Mhm.
makes us on this end need to make sure that our websites and the content that we're providing are AI optimized. We used to talk
Yes.
about SEO, now we talk about AIO. And are we pushing the content that matches these common questions that students are asking on a much deeper level? At the end of the day, in my 27 years, we've always talked about fit. And
Yep.
I think with these tools now available to students, they are able to match themselves to institutions at a much more granular level than they were ever able to before, or that we could try to do on our end from a matching perspective. So that's why I think this is just going to be more and more prevalent in the student search process. And being able to know more things about a student on our end as well helps us then match them to what we have to offer. So it is beneficial to them as a student, but I find it incredibly beneficial to us on our end as we're recruiting, enrolling, retaining, and
Mm.
graduating students to utilize this type of technology. And just one other thing about that,
Yeah.
as an enrollment manager, controlling information and content that students are seeing is one of our number one priorities. And on the flip side, with AI, as it's crawling the entire World Wide Web, we can't always control the messaging that they're going to get about an institution. If something bad happened at a school 20 years ago, it might show up in a search. And so those are the kind of things that we constantly have to be aware of on our end as we know students are using this technology to find out more about us.
Oh, absolutely. Brian, I'm curious to know what you would add to that.
Yeah, I can't agree with Paul anymore. I mean, everything he said is just spot on. I completely agree with those points about just the student behavior. I'm sure it's just grown. I mean, even within this last year, it's completely just exploded in terms of just, I think, the comfortability, the trust that students have, especially the younger generation. Similar to Paul, I've got a entering high school student this year. She just finished ninth grade, and
Yeah.
everything they do is all about quick, easy expediency of information. When they have a lecture on YouTube they have to watch, she's watching it at 2 times speed. Like I'm just of that older generation. I can't watch something like that, and I want to absorb it all, but they want to get it quicker. They want to absorb the information faster. They want it more convenient. We're seeing a lot of that behavior on our chatbot, where students, even our own students at our front desk, they don't even know how to Google anything anymore. They'd rather just ask a bot and get the quick answer that's indexed on a website and find that information as quickly as possible. We typically do a survey every single year with our admitted students, and we have a
Yeah.
wonderful data analyst on our campus, and they put great reports out. But from last year's survey, we found that 82% of our students who were admitted did not have a touch point with us. Basically, they did not attend a virtual event or anything in person. And so, knowing that almost 80% of students are using online tools, they're not able to access you through those college fairs, those tours, even as many webinars as you put on. They're just not able to do that. So they're relying a lot on a lot of external tools, whether that's going to be web-based in that way, social media, all of those things that we're involved in some form. They're definitely on those platforms for a reason. And that's how they're sort of making their decisions and learning information about these institutions.
Well, and you said something, Ryan, that I have to ask a follow-up question on, and especially if it's right your own student. Do you think are they questioning all the answers they get, or is it saying, "Yep, this is my snapshot, but I'm going to keep moving"? That I'm just curious if you have a sense of the sort of state of belief of what's coming back to them.
Right, right. Yeah, I've done a lot of we've done a lot of talking amongst our team about this generation, and I think we all know this generation is, they've been kind of dubbed the anxious generation. And so a lot of the
Mm,
content that we're trying to really put out is to really assure students of these decisions, of these proof points. And so even though it's maybe not the one solid foundation or the one like truth that they're believing in, it's helping to confirm sort of other types of areas. So I don't quite think that they completely trust it, but they're looking for a pattern of, okay, I'm hearing it from this platform. I'm going to maybe look on their website if I'm a little more interested. I'm going to maybe talk to the staff member. We've seen that, yeah, when students actually come on campus, when they take a tour, when they've come to one of our events,
Yeah.
over literally about 60% of the students find it really, really helpful. So of the students who do come and participate with us, it shows that, yeah, they're just kind of trying to confirm the information that they've heard. They're kind of seeing, is it for real in that way? And so a lot of our, at least communications and outreach has been to try to put out as much assurances in that tone as possible.
Uh,
So not necessarily trying to make it like, no, you need to believe us on our website versus what you're hearing from the outside. It's more of, okay, let's try to assure you, if you're hearing this, let's sort of confirm what you're seeing or learning about the university at that end. And so I think the
mm,
more touch points, whether that's, yeah, students, social media, website type of stuff, it's all to kind of help assure them of, is the answer really true of what they're kind of seeing in that way?
I think
yes,
if I can jump in real quick,
please.
Brian hit the nail on the head with the validation of the information. Because early on, I saw, at least with my younger son, believing everything that popped up. And, the old adage, if it's on the internet, it's true. I was like, no, that is definitely not the case. So at least now he's questioning, you see videos that are like, this can't be real. Oh, that's AI generated or this and that. So that there is a questioning. And if I can just dive in a little deeper, I don't want to take up all our
Please.
time here,
No,
but
no, that's what we're here for.
I feel like what we're seeing now with this search process, with utilizing these AI tools, is really the first big revolutionary change that we are going to see in our enrollment worlds since the internet came to be. And when colleges started having websites, obviously, boom, that became what we spent a lot of our time on, making sure that was, like I mentioned, optimized. And now, as this is a piece of that technology, I think this is also going to truly change how we do business on our end. We know
Yes.
student behavior
Yes.
is changing with search and using sites like Kollegio, using Chat GPT or whatever form they want to use, and then us having to adapt to that for the first time since adapting to just a website. I think enrollment leaders really have to start thinking like that. We have to lean into it because it's not going away. The internet was not a fad, and neither is this. And with that comes some risk in changing how we do things. We mentioned going to the college fairs and doing the high school visits and all those things that have been traditional parts of admissions offices across the country and world. I think you're going to start seeing that those behaviors change in the student population as far as the need to do it. And I know when we run our metrics on our end, those are the least yielding activities that a student participates in. And I
Yeah.
hate to say that because a lot of work goes into putting on a college fair and a lot of money goes into traveling. But is it really worth it in this day and age? We need to have those. What I fear is the touch points disappear. It's still a
Mm,
relationship business, and
yep.
they still need to see that campus if they're a traditional student. So, balancing that is really going to become, I think, challenging for colleges and universities going forward.
No, absolutely. And I love where you took it, Paul, of taking the AI moment back to the internet, of that being the shift. I often think of, and I agree with you, I often think of this moment as when everyone was adapting a fresh CRM. And you sort of were like, I know and please, I come from the campus perspective where the last big thing I did on campus was oversee our CRM implementation. And maybe it drove me into the arms of working in the partnership side. But what I think is so key about that moment is it was something everyone knew they should do. They probably had to do. It was going to take a lot of energy and effort to really think about all of the ways it would touch the process. But if you didn't do it and you delayed, it was so detrimental later on, and you were playing catch up for years before right? Getting off a legacy CRM or implementing truly a robust CRM at all. Absolutely. Um, I'm going to actually go off of one of the questions that came in, which is just about what AI platforms students are typically using, because I'd love to hear, Brian and Paul, sort of what you're hearing and seeing, and this question around, right? And I think some of it's all of the above, the ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. We're seeing them everywhere, and where are they fact checking is the other piece of I think what the conversation becomes. And the thing I'll say maybe to that from my lens is also the tough part is for what Brian and Paul you've both mentioned, which is just like there are both echoes of things out there. There are things that get picked up. And so, right, like the anxious generation, maybe asking some questions, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. We often on the Kollegio platform run this process of saying, okay, if we're matching students to you, we have to run AI to get some qualities about the institution. And more than once have I done that. And someone says, number two, I know it's out there. We are digging to pull that back. And so I think some of that first question is like, maybe not that it doesn't answer the student question, but internal awareness about what students are finding about you is maybe step one in when you think about that accuracy and reassurance. So maybe my question for both of you, is it the typical sources, Paul or Brian, whoever wants to jump in first? Are they coming to you from different places too? Like how are they reporting they're using AI?
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I think that's a hard question because I think everything's sort of exploded in the last few months since we've already done our application cycle. And so we're waiting for us to kind of run our survey this year to see kind of student behavior and communications and how they kind of leveraged it. Anecdotally, I think with our students in the office, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever's kind of more convenient for them that they're more used to, I think already searching on a base platform. That they're not using it just for like college search engines, things like that, but we know they're doing it with like their schoolwork. They're doing it with just even things like, yeah, how do I kind of plan out like my daughter is like, oh, how do I kind of do makeup type of stuff, or what should I be wearing, or what are trends and things like that. So um it's just, I think like the internet and like Paul was saying, it's just becoming more of an everyday type of thing where it's another tool that they're just used to now. And they're going to go to that as sort of literally, it's like a personal assistant. It's like that kind of Q&A person.
Yes.
Before it would have been, maybe mom, dad, friends, and people like that. And now it's going to be, just the AI doing it instead of like maybe going to a crowdsource like a Reddit. And, we still see Reddit. We still see some of those type of crowdsourcing as somewhat helpful in some ways. But I think being able to synthesize so much data into a very quick, comprehensive explanation for them is what they're looking for. So, but yeah, I'm anxious to kind of see, yeah, is there a
Yeah.
specific kind of platform that it's kind of driving it in some ways? But yeah, I think what we kind of see on the back end is really when students call in, they get a quick answer, but it's not to the depth that they need. And so they need that sort of reassurance from us. And so we've seen definitely less calls to our office, but what we see is that the depth of the call is actually a little longer. So usually it takes maybe an additional maybe minute or 2 or 3 minutes to actually explain and go through some of the specifics or talk about the context as to why the student is asking a question. So we're not seeing the general like, what are your dates to apply or what's your campus about? But we have a very specific question about this that they found from somewhere and they need to hear it and then also learn a little more about it from our end.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, especially that the phone call scenario that Brian shared there, as far as the depth of what our staff needs to be able to address
Mm,
outside of just the quick facts, which you
mm,
can get anywhere. And so, from a training perspective, we've had to take that into consideration. Um, that if you're an admissions counselor, there might be more counseling involved than there ever has been before with these students because of the depth of those questions. And then again, just behavior I've seen from my own son, as far as he's a chat GPT guy, so that's his main source. But it's funny, I see him using the tool to construct email responses to professors so he doesn't sound dumb. So he'll type in, "I need to respond to this email for me, please." And it's quite fascinating. And I was like, I hope you're learning something from this because he's either asking me what to say, or now he's just like, well, I'm just going to put this in Chat GPT. And
Same.
so I was
Sure.
like, all right, buddy, you do you. But it just and it's funny, I know how kids talk today. And then when you get an email or some kind of text from them, that's like, wow, that's very professionally written. It's like, I know where that came from. So detecting it is becoming a little easier, I think.
It's yes, the language elevates quickly.
Yes.
Uh, Maybe from there's so many great questions coming in. I've already abandoned my own list because I think there's interesting things that are happening. I'm curious, maybe even not just in enrollment, but like campus wide. Paul and Brian, are there any projects that have been launched as a university, or have you heard of such to sort of correct outdated information, right? Like if it's, old Princeton Review, or we know, right? Like it's there's I think a labor intensity to that, but I'm curious if from like more the overarching university marketing perspective, if those are conversations or projects that are happening.
I would say on our end, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's been the main focus of we have external partnerships for web development and things like that. We're a small place, and we kind of have to do those things, but that's part of the overhaul that we are attempting to do with our at least our site right now.
Yeah.
But then also, as you mentioned, those external things that you either forget about or that have been sitting out in the World Wide Web for years upon years. And so
Yeah.
we have our marketing folks that are assigned to try to find those things. You never find everything, and so you're right. It's time intensive, and we control what we can. And I think
Yes.
making sure at least our website is even up to date, and schools still are challenged by that sometimes too. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, so that's definitely top of mind as far as what we want the look and feel and the information provided from our specific institution. That is at the very top of the priority list here at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, from our perspective, for us at a large university, it's really everything's to
Yeah.
scale, and everything is yeah, it's hard to index. Like Paul said, you're never gonna find everything, and we were, especially in admissions, we were a very early adopter of chatbots. We actually started adopting a chatbot back in 2019, so even before pandemic, and we knew that we needed
Yeah.
to actually help sort of address the volume issue because we would get thousands of phone calls every month, and there's only so many hours of the day that you're able to answer with a student. You have to kind of train as many students and front desk staff as possible, and you can't keep up with all the information. So we really started looking at technologies like chatbots early to really help reduce the volume of really these repetitive calls. But what we also learned from the adopting the chatbot was that it's sort of an early warning system for you. So the minute you start seeing chats
Mm.
and questions about something, and especially with admissions, it's very seasonal. So there's certain times of the year where certain questions will pop up, and we
Yeah.
know, oh, something's missing. How come the date on a financial aid deadline is wrong, or how come this form's not here? How come I
Yeah.
can't get into the housing portal? How come this doesn't work? And this is very good indicators for us that, yeah, okay, we got to actually check our links. We got to check and make sure the information is correct on that end. I was also kind of curious about this as well. So I was, last night I was doing some research about, yeah, let me just ask ChatGPT about my own campus and what it's kind of coming up with. And it was interesting because I literally just asked it, oh, what are the pros and cons about UC Irvine? And the pros are definitely the things that we've been trying to put out and market in a lot of ways. But then you have the cons, and it's like, wow, some of these things are really, really old. Like one of the things that came up was, oh, UC Irvine's still like a commuter campus. And when I was a student 30
Mm.
years ago, then yeah, it was definitely a commuter campus. We were a lot smaller, we were that level. But I feel like in the last, 25 years, we've kind of evolved away from that. But you still see kind of these just reputation monikers kind of persist. And whether that's because it's been on the web for so long of like people's feedback and comments about a campus, that just kind of persists continually. So, that also to me is sort of that early warning system of like, okay, what is the narrative out there about our campus in that way? And is that the type of stuff that we need to really sort of then really address or sort of counteract in certain forms? Are we doing a good enough job of addressing some of these like legacy types of reputations that are happening with our campus that maybe we've sort of matured and grown from there?
Yes.
But you always, unfortunately, that some of these identity things always just kind of stick with you as it kind of persists on.
No, absolutely. We see that all the time, and the warning bell piece of that, or like that bellwether, I think is also another great point. I love this question in the chat, which is how might this increased use of AI by students um, change and really impact how you view demonstrated interest? And I think about that from the statistics of students are potentially sort of showing up later. Because they're doing this behind the scene. Is that changing how you understand demonstrated interest, or how you are able to project, what intent yield is going to look like, intent to enroll?
I'll just quickly answer that because I think Paul's going to talk about it. So for the University of California, we don't track demonstrated interest. So
Okay,
that is one marker that we don't intentionally kind of go after for a data point. We obviously
great.
don't use it for the admissions process. It is helpful for me to kind of gather information, like I said, for surveys and statistics to see, okay,
Mhm.
is the marketing that we're putting out, is the information on our website helping? So it does give me a little bit of idea, like, yeah, if they come for a tour, if they're signing up for our mailing list, if they're, putting their name on a website or even coming to our website, is that helpful for us to do? But a lot of it is more of just making sure that our content is, up to date. Are we making sure we're putting out the right type of information about what the campus is all about? So, yeah, so I'm sure Paul has a little
That's great.
more about the demonstrated interest side to address to
Well,
you.
I mean, to be honest, it's what I'm seeing is what used to be a almost predictable linear process that a student would go through
Mm,
when deciding on a college is now jagged. It's now all over the place, and they're coming in at different places in the cycle.
hmm
From a stealth perspective, more than anything, I think what I've seen at several schools I've been at, even before the onset of this, is the increase in stealth applications that are coming in that you think had no contact with the institution, but had done plenty of research on the institution.
Mm,
And maybe saw your ad or saw what have you. And so being able to track like source, if you will, source of that initial interest is becoming increasingly difficult to do. Any and we all know they're just in time mindsets. So I think that how you're serving those students on the front end becomes increasingly important as they're used to ordering something from Amazon and maybe getting it later that day. So I think from a responsiveness to students, because they can get immediate answers to anything, if they then don't experience that when they're applying to your institution or when they're interacting with you, then you're dropping the ball on it, if you will.
mm, yeah,
And so I think that has just ramped up the intensity and hustle that we have to intentionally work with by every single day and meeting needs of students when they pop into us where we're actually seeing them now. Um, so yes, it has become incredibly difficult to track those things, which makes all those predictive indicators much more difficult to track as
yeah.
well. Um, whether it be yield or what have you, because they're just not going through the process in the same way.
The No, absolutely. And I hear so much about that piece. I think also overall direct admission in many campuses and in certain states is as like another layer that's been added in of just like predictions in general that is really challenging. I am curious, and is in just thinking about all we've shared, and if you haven't asked a question in the chat and you really wanted to, please feel free to add. If thinking about anything you haven't covered so far, anything about AI in the process that both really excites you that we haven't mentioned yet, or anything that worries you or worries your campuses, or or sort of the like, right? We know this is coming, and there's I have a lot of support for what AI is doing, but also like what are some of the fears that you're experiencing or hearing about?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Brian.
I think, the exciting thing is that I think, and especially talking to partners like Kollegio, like you, and other groups, it's about the access. And, I think that's a lot of our mission
Yeah.
and why we do the things that we do as counselors, as admissions practitioners, is that we want to be able to just get our information out there, to be able to like provide information for students who have no opportunity or way to get in contact with us. Maybe they're in an area they don't have access to counseling, they can't get to a fair. We're sort of like Paul said, we're in the midst of like, yeah, we have to kind of cut back on being able to travel places. We don't have the budget, maybe
Yeah.
the staff.
Yeah.
Um, so the excitement is also something about just being able to get really, really good answers in a short amount of time. So yes, I'm all about the expediency. I realize time is of the essence. I look at the schedule my high schooler has, and there's barely any time to do anything from the activities to the sports to then trying to do homework and keep up with AP class. I really don't know how this generation does it.
Yeah.
I never had to pull an all-nighter until college, and it was really not for studying. And even in high school, I've seen my daughter kind of pull all-nighters for work and stuff like that. And it's crazy how
Yeah.
much they're kind of putting in. But yeah, so to be able to make life a little more easier to get that, I think we're all proponents of that, of that. I think the worry is probably us as maybe an older generation who've kind of seen the technology shift really fast in
Mm,
a lot of ways. There's that trust aspect. And can we trust it? So as things are emerging so fast, if it's going to give you information to advise you about, a course pattern you need to take, we're kind of in development with our transfer students to see, okay, can we get an advisor to actually tell them if they take certain number of classes at these community colleges, is this going to be eligible for them to transfer? We worry that it's going to misadvise them and there's going to be an adverse consequence down the line. And that's always kind of in our back of the mind. Like we want it to work perfectly, and we just don't know enough about the AI to say, okay, is it answering in the right way? Is it kind of doing that? 99% of the time, our chatbot works perfectly in terms of an AI bot. It curates our website and it puts together a wonderful answer that sounds great. And like, 1 out of 100 will be like this. Where did that answer come from? What in the world was the AI kind of coming up with? And so try to
yeah.
address, these like, where did it make up this answer? Did it try to do this? One of them was something like, oh, is this event for all students or certain students? And it actually tell them like everyone's welcome when it really wasn't. So we're trying to figure out, okay, why is that happening? And so it's like, yeah, it's
Mm,
that 1% that it's the error, but it's worries me enough to say like, yeah, I don't want wrong information. Like we try as staff members to make sure we're not giving the wrong information. So I think we approach that on the same level when we have expectations for AI here.
yeah. For you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything Brian just said. It's interesting watching our faculty manage classrooms and things like that around the presence of AI. And just we had a faculty member here, quick story. Um, it was an online class, and you had to um, by midnight on Sunday respond to whatever question of the week there was in the group uh, chat, and he noticed that answers coming back were very similar. He noticed that they were all written very similarly. He knew students were just typing the question into AI or typing prompts into AI to get the answers. So what he decided to do was, then he knew that students were going to do that. So he said, you know what? I'm going to evaluate you on the prompts you're putting into AI to get to the answer that you think is correct.
Mm,
So I was like, well, that's a pretty innovative way to, they're going to use it, but let's evaluate how they're doing it and why they're thinking in the way they're thinking. So I was
yeah.
like, that is a very innovative way to do this. And I've been impressed with our faculty here on Parks campus, really leaning in to these kind of things. And so, that was kind of an impressive story to hear. I was like, wow, you know, instead of just throwing up your hands and saying they're just going to do it, it's no, I'm going to find a different way to evaluate learning in this classroom. So, I think watching faculty navigate this, it's
Mm,
challenging for for them. And I think there's some scary pieces to it, but I think there is a way to effectively still have a good classroom experience um, with this. So
A paired question to the classroom piece. I'm so glad you brought that up. Are you both preparing and training your admission counselors to talk with prospective students about AI usage in the college search process? I know we have a lot of high school counselors and enrollment folks on this call today. I'm curious what that internal conversation has been like.
Yeah, we've this past year we and this is actually early on the last as AI was emerging, and I think a lot of it was also about what Paul was speaking about, like doing the work, like filling out the college app. Like what do I write for my we call it personal insight questions, but the college essay and things like that. And our point has always been really AI is a tool when used correctly, right? You don't want to have AI just curate it and come up with something and it's not your own work, but when it's used in sort of a tool similar to what's the difference between my student coming to me and asking them, can you proofread my college essay? Can you do this? We've always kind of gone with that sort of understanding that, yeah, in the right way, please use AI tools. Please use the tools to help you. Yeah, if it helps clean up your grammar so that the points that you're trying to make comes across cleaner, maybe there's a way that your wording can actually make it so you're saving like time with it. Like our responses are only 350 words. So if you have to get under the word limit, AI
Mm-hmm.
absolutely can help you kind of
Mm-hmm.
clean that up. So it's no different than asking a human to kind of proofread and do that. And again, it just provides more accessibility. But yeah, I think in terms of the search as well, we're having our staff be able to kind of understand, and they're involved with the chatbot too. We have our staff kind of do live chat, and so they kind of see the kind of the same things, like how are students asking questions, and based on how they're asking questions, it gives them a better insight into what should they be understanding about when they're presenting? What are the types of topics? It's no more in the old way of like, okay, the traditional view book, right? You have your stats, you have your majors, and you talk about these types of things. But AI and understanding the questions from them will help us sort of like curate even the presentations and the talking points. Maybe students don't want to hear about the traditional, like where your ranking is and where this is, but they're looking to make it a little more, okay, how is this going to fit me? Like we were saying earlier, the career preparation, the am I going to be a good fit? Am I going to stand out as a student? We should be probably answering more of the topics of this generation and what they're interested in for college rather than assuming, okay, everyone wants the same things like the rankings, the reputations, the stats, the admit rates and stuff like that. I don't know if students really care about that anymore. I think they're trying to make it a little more personal to them about choosing a college.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Paul?
no, I again agree with
Yeah,
everything
yeah, I love
everything Brian said. It's
that.
it's part of the it's just part of their work now.
Yeah,
And so yeah, that's what we have to manage.
absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, because I know and apologies, I see we have more questions and we have a few more minutes to wrap. I'm gonna Brian and Paul give you 2 minutes to think on this one. But 2 years from now, what do you think that enrollment leaders wish they had started preparing for today? I'll give you a moment because I'm going to switch over to share my screen so you can come up with like something truly profound. Um, but I just want to thank you all so much. The thing I want to just touch upon really quickly while Paul and Brian think on that of, right, 2 years from now, what do think back to this webinar and someone's going to say, I wish I had started this or I'm already behind. But I want to just touch upon quickly as we close and thank you as we wrap in this last 10 minutes, just to highlight a little bit about, again, the seat that we come to this conversation from at Kollegio. Paul and Brian have been amazing partners at Park University and UC Irvine. And really what we do and offer is that we are a AI guidance platform. And so students join our platform. And I know we have so many counselors again and professionals from campuses here, but they're joining to explore, to ask these questions we're talking about, to brainstorm and review essays, giving them a safe space and a curated space, meaning that, right, it's not just ChatGPT out in the world. Like we really take our expertise and put this into it to really function as that sort of co-captain and guidance counselor for students during the college search process. So as they're sharing with us, we get to learn just really an incredible amount about them. Um, they're getting guidances on this college lists on like what might be their opportunities moving forward. So just to give you a little sense of some of the things that within the platform is helping them take that next step. And in turn, just as we partner with campuses, we end up with this incredible richness of information that they've given us their permission to share. And we're able to then take those questions of, right, what is that amazing outdoor school in the Northeast that has this major I'm looking for? And able to send some personalized messages on behalf of institutions, ultimately shortlisting and sharing some of those names with our partners. So we love to really think about what's next with AI strategy alongside of our campuses. So it's really sort of that twofold piece of the students joining the platform and that us in turn working with colleges and universities to connect them to those students. And these are just a few of the partners we're working with today. And in sharing all of this too, and before we go back for those last questions, also just sort of thinking about that, where are you showing up in that process? Some of the other pieces of data out there are just continue to support. I'd swear these numbers feel even too low, but whether it's that 27% that are filling out an inquiry form after they've asked AI, that they're not emailing until they've talked to AI, or just that they're using, your college chatbot that UC Irvine's had in place in 2019 that's responding to them. So just thinking about where you are in that process, I think is super key. And then ultimately, if you have Kollegio questions or about things that we've discussed today, you can put a yes in the chat, and then this is also my email address. If anyone would like to learn more or share more, please let us know. But for that last piece, I got to go back to Paul and Brian to the question of if there was that, right, that 2 years from now, what do you think enrollment leaders sort of wish they had done with AI? What would your answer be?
I think that, this is very exciting times. Using this kind of technology to help students, to help universities, but we're using artificial intelligence, but these students are not artificial. These students are real people. And as Brian mentioned, it's an anxious generation, and we're seeing students come to our campus with many mental health challenges or just those anxieties that our kids seem to have more today than they ever had. So what can be done in the AI space to help students navigate those kind of challenges on college campuses? And it's just something we can't forget, I think, is really what I'm getting at is not necessarily can AI help us, but we still have to understand that we need to serve these people as individuals and help them be successful. And there will never, it's a relationship business, and it's always going to be a relationship business.
Yeah.
And we must still embrace that, I think, in our profession. Yes, utilize the tools, allow students to utilize the tools as best they can, but these are still real people with bringing their own set of issues to us on a college campus that we must be able to help them navigate. So it's more of, we can't forget that. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Well said.
And I think, that's just something that I've been trying to train myself on, even going through all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Paul 100%. If you asked this question 2 years ago for me, I would have just not believed you on just where AI is even taking us to this point. If you said AI, I would have been like, oh, are we worried that Terminators like Arnold Schwarzenegger are going to come kill us all and get rid of humanity or stuff like that? But that I think there's a little bit of that fear that still is pervasive in a lot of ways, where it's like, oh, it's going to replace jobs, it's going to do all this stuff. And I don't think that's the reality of it. I think we need to push those types of fears aside and not create that narrative that, yeah, you're going to lose a job, or it's not going to be relational anymore, and this type of work isn't there. Like, it is 100% relational. The students who still, once they kind of find out an entry, this is just the entry gateway for them to kind of get a foot in the door. And then after that, they still want to talk to a human. They still want to have that interaction. They still want to connect in that way. And a lot of times I think, I would say myself for 2 years is like, don't fear it, but lean into it. And I've always just kind of taken that approach with our technology in our department when we're exploring things. And I know admissions offices tend to be a little probably more on the open-sided, like, let's lean into it, let's kind of figure out, let's adopt new technologies. Higher ed in general, sometimes it takes a long time to kind of, get that situated. But the more we can kind of, as an institution, lean into it and say, okay, this is just going to be a normal part of just how students are interacting these days. It took so long for students to get used to, or for our generation to see, like, oh, you can check your email and do everything from a phone now. Like, a phone isn't really a phone anymore. It's your literally your personal device like that. So I think it's just about adopting to what the technology is and getting back to those basics in that way. Yeah, what is our core function of just trying to help students
Yes.
understand, is college going to be a good fit for you? Is this going to be the place where you succeed? I was just telling my my wife's a high school teacher as well. So I was telling her students even yesterday, my job isn't to just get you into the college, it's to make sure you graduate from college. And so I
Yes.
think if we take that as an institutional approach to ensure that, okay, from the front end of what we're doing to help students find the college that they're going to fit in, and then when we get there, as Paul was saying, that's amazing. The faculty are leaning into it. And I think faculty should do that, is lean into it, so that we want to ensure, are they getting the right education afterwards? They're not just kind of learning that, okay, if I ask ChatGPT to do my homework, then that's basically how life is going to be. It's not going to be like that. We want them to be able to, I think, function as humans after this in society. So how do we kind of lean into the technology, knowing that that's going to be the world that they're going to be living in when they're at this age, in the career world like that?
Wow, the all so well said. Thank you both so much. I also, I'm like clocking on my hands from the questions we won't get to, but we'll work to follow up. Authenticity in AI messaging is some other pieces. Brian and Paul have to get back to their meetings, but the role AI has in graduate student search, parents and families. I feel another webinar coming. So Brian and Paul, can't thank you enough, and everyone who joined today and really stayed on. Thank you, and I'll also make sure, Emily, please, if you have some closing words as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Erin, Brian, and Paul. I really enjoyed that. I learned so much, and I just think that was really an excellent conversation. And thank you for all the great questions that came. I will say some of those were even things that helped me think of for future webinars that we need to host, and themes that we need to
Yes.
talk about and engage, in. So yeah, thank you for those thoughtful questions there. And there is a lot of fear in this space, and Brian, you mentioned that in your final response there. And I just think conversations like this help people kind of realize that, yes, there are things to be, weary about and concerns that we have, but it is important that we as educators come together and start thinking about this. And the more we learn about this, I find the more that fear kind of dissipates. I think that, there's definitely a correlation, in general, right? The more we learn about something, the more we understand it and the less we're fearful of it. Doesn't mean that those concerns completely disappear. It means that we say, oh, now I understand that concern and I see what's happening about that and how I can mitigate that and what my institution is doing in regards to that concern. So thank you so much. I think many times this is the first time that audience members have come to this space. So, this can be a beginning point. Many of them are very experienced. So it's like all across the spectrum. And you guys did an excellent job of just making this, approachable for everybody, whether they're super experienced or brand new today in this space. So much. So thank you so much. I did put a few links. I hope the audience saw those links in the chat there. the next session is going to be in July. We're taking June off, but July is going to be a really exciting session about AI, Slate AI. So if you're a Slate school, if you engage with Slate, and that's many of our audience members, please make sure to sign up for that. Jasmine Solomon, who is I call her a Slate rock star personally. She has been put that together and has an amazing panel that she's a very thoughtful panel that she's put together. So the link to sign up for that is there. Please, I also put a link for a poll. We'd love for you guys after today to contribute to that poll. It's on our LinkedIn community page. If you're not a part of that community, there was a link there to join. This is recorded. We will share this. It will be live on our website within the next few days. So if there are other people that you'd like to share this with, please, we'll put this on our community page on LinkedIn, and please share that widely with your audience. Any final words, Erin, before we go, or Brian or Paul, before we sign off?
Just acknowledging, I saw someone mention they couldn't, the chat was maybe disabled. So sorry about that. Feel free to reach out to me. And I'm happy to also be like, if you're like, it's really for Emily, like happy to field any other questions. But thank you. I'm like so delighted that so many of you have hung up with us for the duration of an hour. I'm truly honored that you would spend your time with us today.
So Erin and Emily, feel free to share my email address out to this group as well.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing.
If anyone has any questions, I'm sure Brian and I'd be happy to speak
Awesome.
with
We'll
them.
stay on and share that here in just a moment.
Awesome. No, thank you for offering that.
Yeah, that's great. And because, I find so often it's so helpful for schools to, they're looking at other institutions that have already done this, that have led the way. And so I'm constantly looking for the leaders like Brian and Paul who are willing to talk about what their institutions are doing and share that. And then I know there are people in this audience that would love to, have a deeper conversation about your successes and also your failures, and, because they're working on implementing these things. So it's, really great for you to share that. I don't see it yet. Erin, do you have their contact?
Here, I've got it right here. Sorry, I had to hit reload on something on my end. Here we go. I'm dropping in the chat, and if you can pass them on. And thank you, Brian and Paul, for the generosity in sharing that.
Yeah. So that is in there as well. And you can always reach out through the community, through our LinkedIn page. If you missed anything today, you can send me a DM there, and I will make sure to get it to the right people, and we'll answer your questions through our community as well. And please engage with us. We would love for you to post. We're always looking for our community to engage more. It helps us keep it an active group. It's actually something we really struggle to do every month, is just to make sure we stay what LinkedIn calls an active group. And in that way, then we show up in your feed as well. So we really would love for our community to engage and help us out. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. I think we've got the information there. Make sure to grab it from the chat. That will disappear when we say goodbye. But thanks so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you again on July 28th for the AI in Slate webinar that we'll be hosting. And have a great rest of your week, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.